Coworker won't stop mocking me after I transitioned to professionalism, and now his defiance is jeopardizing our department's success. I have gone from being a green, honestly unprofessional newbie to office culture to having considerably improved professional dialogue and interactions with my coworkers at the office I have been working in for over 3 years now. I paid especially close to your tips about communication, especially for those of us who are a little shy/awkward, as it were, and it's really helped, except for the one person I work with more closely than anyone else, of course. I am a teapot reports processor and work in an office with one other person, a guy the same age as me, 25, who is the teapot records clerk. We both have the same boss, but I am largely responsible for supervising him and delegating what he does every day. Our jobs are pretty closely intertwined, filing and all of that is on my job description in addition to what I normally do, and vice versa, for him. We became friends pretty quickly and found in each other a mutual love of memes, music, stupid jokes, and being sarcastic 100% of the time. Normally this never got us in much trouble as long as we didn't get rowdy, and we are still able to work in the same space doing our own respective things. I am a very high performer and always have been, it's just my behavior that needed some serious tuning. But lately, since I made a turnaround professionalism, he seems to be pushing back on everything I say and ask him to do more than ever. He will deliberately ignore things I ask him to do a certain way, I'll do it differently when someone tells me to, gripes and complains loudly when I ask anything of him ever, and sometimes won't even answer basic questions. For example, one time I noticed he was covering overtime at the front desk and called upstairs to ask why. He responded to every variation of me asking why are you still upstairs? With your mother and would not give me an answer. There's also a lot of name calling, which I know is all facetious and I don't really get offended, but it does get grating to tell him hey, I need you to do this report and here shut up, bitch in response, jokingly or not. It gets really profane in here, I'm talking tons of F-bombs and the C word, among everything else imaginable, and I am trying hard to curb as much of this as possible because this is just not how anyone should be talking at work regardless of who can overhear it, ever. We all joke and rib each other here, but neither I or anyone else comes anywhere close to how off the cuff he gets. I talked to our boss about it, and she advised me to sit him down and tell him what I expect of him and I have. His response to I need you to know when to stop with the jokes and listen to me or I need you to, can you make sure that gets done as I need your mom to stop. Hilarious. I tried to be more lighthearted like, haha, no but seriously, can you and not to be a buzzkill, but will you and that doesn't really help either. I've had sit-downs with my boss and him about it and he just gave manufactured answers, which satisfied my boss, but not me. I've asked her how much I can push back against this behavior without it overstepping my boundaries, since I am not officially his supervisor, and she said I can do whatever I feel is necessary to get him to cooperate, but nothing is working. My boss seems content to just tell me I've shot myself in the foot with this one as a result of too much joking around, and honestly she's probably right, but I really want to believe there is a way to turn this around because there isn't much chance he's going anywhere soon. I don't need this to be serious business all of the time, but this communication gap is frustrating at best, and his poor work ethic and refusal to do things I need him to do is dragging me and my department down. I'm worried I'll never be management material if I can't get this situation under control. I've had such good results with everyone else, but not this guy. Update 1. Not too long after my letter was published, boss, clerk, and I sat down to discuss my concerns. Boss said I'm here as a mediator only. Op. Take it away and only cut in sparingly to clarify points or add her 2 cents. I brought up the communication issues with clerk and used the calling the front desk incident as an example. His response was that my tone came off as demanding/accusative, so he didn't feel like answering me. He said he takes issue with my tone when I ask him things or give him tasks to do in general, because I sound less like I'm asking and more like I'm telling. I was taken aback by that and asked how he got that impression, since I always ask, can you do a couple reports if you have time do you want to help me with, and would never just demand something of him. He said my demeanor when asking always came across to him as nothing actually being optional and those if you have time additions being passive-aggressive. He got belligerent, his words, and decided to draw the line with me on what he would or wouldn't do, without telling me, or our boss, in any way. He figured I would take the hint based on his actions and behavior, long aggravated sighs, backtalk, tossing work I've left him back on my desk while I'm away from it instead of doing it because he didn't feel, should have to, your work for, you despite that the work I gave him is filing, and of course the silent treatment, but the only hint I got is that he was unwilling to do anything other than his usual bare minimum, so I'm sure by then my tone was something to behold, try as I may to not let it be. The conversation got really heated, almost within shouting levels, but thankfully we managed to reach an understanding and apologize to each other. We both agreed to work on the problems, my tone and his overall communication, and I also told him to stop the name calling, point blank, and he apologized and said he would. You know I'm just joking, right? Truth be told, I'm not entirely surprised by the tone comment. I tend to be easy to read, even if I'm using the right words and keeping my expression neutral, my feelings come out in my voice. I've never been told it was a problem before now, though, and that's probably because I'm so unbelievably exasperated with this guy and have been for years. But I checked out a few books on communication from our professional learning objectives library in hopes of working on this, which is something I wanted to do anyway. I sort of have the feeling he may have heard the tone of my voice that way because he doesn't like to be told what to do. Think the bossy woman trope, but I'm willing to try and adjust my behavior and see if it makes any of the issues go away, especially given that it's a plausible issue for me to have. At this point, I seriously doubt his performance is going to change much, being halfway out the door already and given free rein to call what I ask him to do optional, but if I can at least curb the profanity, that's a start. Boss had absolutely nothing to say in regard to my tone or his refusal to do things other than to suggest some ways to delegate our workloads better. On the bright side, it's been a week or so and he hasn't called me any names in my softened language. What does your to-do list look like today? Can you fit in a couple reports? Seems to have helped somewhat. At one point he did interrupt me with "Be quiet op. Men are talking." And I flatly said not funny and he dropped both that and speaking to me at all for about an hour. If you can't say something nice. Update 2. Clerk's behavior quickly got worse. I walked into a conference room for a meeting that was empty save for him. He said, "We're voting you off the island," as I sat down. I thought I'd missed some kind of joke before walking in, so I said, "What?" With a small laugh, and he looked me in the eye and said, "Because nobody can ing stand you." He said something rude to me every time I opened my mouth. He'd either repeat what I said in a mocking voice or just say something crappy about my appearance or that my interests were stupid, or whatever. It was just everything. He started referring to me as woman, be quiet, woman. I sternly said, "Don't call me woman. It's degrading," which launched an extremely obnoxious back and forth about why I found it degrading when it's what I am. Are you a self-hating feminist? Oops, I mean feminazi, etc. One time I asked, "Is there some reason you constantly feel the need to say mean things to me?" His answer was, "It's not mean if it's true." Boss was on lots of PTO for personal reasons around this time, so I just started writing everything down, date and time, stamping all of it. After a few weeks of this nonsense, I contacted HR and met with one of the reps. I figured it was time to take it a step further and my boss had been so far unhelpful. She told me, "Don't take it personally. So don't bother, you still look like SH when I'm putting on makeup, or you fat F /." When I said I was looking forward to the catered staff lunch later that day, what? Professional criticisms. HR lady asked me if I thought Clerk having an admin mom that's been here a long time was part of the issue. I said I wasn't sure, but I don't think he has cause to fear for his job because of it. Nobody would dare cross swords with her by firing her kid. HR's advice was for me to be even sterner with him and say things like, "Clerk, I've asked you to stop saying that and you aren't listening. Do I need to get boss involved?" Etc. So I did, so I had been doing, since I wrote to you the first time, and I got the typical "What, are you running to mommy?" Or the silent treatment. God, I love getting the silent treatment now. Boss kept telling me, "Just worry about you," when I'd bring up performance or scheduling concerns having to do with Clerk. Everybody said, "Just wait and see how it goes," which they've been saying since before I first wrote in. I kinda just shut down. Kept my headphones on as much as I could, tried to pretend he didn't exist. He's full-time now, so I have no days of escape from him. There's nowhere else for us to do our work and we can't work from home. I'm just stuck with him. And he does just enough to keep him endeared. Our company is huge on just filling empty spaces with whoever they can find, shuffling people around and not really hiring to patch gaps the way they should, so this is pretty typical. A warm body is a warm body. I'm pretty fed up. I keep being told it's my responsibility to deal with this jerk. I keep feeling like it's my fault he's being inappropriate. Somehow I seem to be the only one who understands how consent works. Yes, I consented to being treated like this and went along with it. Now I am withdrawing that consent. How is this complicated? And most of all, I am just really sick of being verbally abused and disrespected in my workplace. I spend most of my nights and weekends shut up in my house, not talking to anyone, not going anywhere, and feeling like it's a chore when I have to. I don't eat, I can't sleep. I'm honestly just messed up about this. Some magical how, my work hasn't suffered, but I think my relationships with my coworkers are starting to deteriorate because I'm either totally withdrawing or kind of just flat and unenthusiastic. I try not to be, but I can sense that I am. My roommates noticed my mood change, too. It kinda sucks. But I'm hanging in there. I'll be moving back home to help my mom with some stuff, and save a little money / work on paying stuff off in the meantime, getting a car, and making some big, health-related changes come the first of the year. I'm looking for another job and hope to give my boss notice during my performance review in mid to late December. I know I'll find a good job because I have all your help and advice at my disposal, and now lots of experience and skills to pad my resume with. So thank you, and your readers, so much for being around and hearing me out. I don't feel as lost and hopeless as I probably would otherwise because of it. Smile Update 3. Last year I wrote to you a couple times about my rude file clerk. My last update in December was so depressing. I actually cringed when I went back and looked at the posts about my situation to remind myself of what had been going on. I was in a pretty dark place, but I thought I'd write in one more time since there's finally a happy ending. Smile. Around mid-January or so, boss called me and clerk into an informal meeting. Turns out, Clerk asked director about transferring to a different position as a clinic assistant, which means he would be on a different floor, doing completely unrelated stuff, and I'd basically never see him ever. It had been in the works for a while. I think based on what Clerk said, this probably came about right around the time of my second update, but they didn't want to mention it to me until they knew for sure what was going to happen. I think they were both nervous about how I would react. I was kinda taken aback at first, but that was mostly because I thought Clerk wanted to leave the company, not get more involved, but he did always say that he just really hates sitting at a desk all day shuffling papers, so I wasn't totally shocked. It's a good change for us both since now he gets to work with patients and be up in the thick of the activity all day, and I get my peace and quiet, and no verbal abuse. We talked a bit about some of the plans for the department, and I was pretty excited about making some changes, and boss also alluded to the possibility of a title bump/raise, which is exciting. I actually waited until after the meeting and went back to talk to boss about my ideas one-on-one, since I didn't want Clerk to think I was eager for him to get gone so I could change absolutely everything. I mean, I am, but you know. I talked to Clerk after the meeting and it was pretty chill. Clerk has been switching over to the new position little by little and will probably fully shift over once we hire a new file clerk. We still haven't found anyone, so they're keeping Clerk dangling by a thread so we can at least say someone did a tiny bit of filing once a day. Derp. Right now I only see him for the first hour and a half of the day, then maybe half an hour right before we leave. We get along much better now, as I'm sure you can imagine. He's really happy with what he's doing now, and I've already gotten the ball rolling on some changes. Boss has been giving me more and more opportunities to take initiative and show some of the skills I picked up over the last year, thanks to reading your blog, and spent almost my entire performance review praising my improved communication skills up and down the block, so I think all the drama wound up paying off in the form of lessons learned. That, combined with finally buying my first car, unburdening myself of a lot of financial stress, and losing almost 40 pounds since the first of the year, has really flipped things turnways for me since December. I'm feeling good about my job again, and just in general, and can't wait to see what the future brings. Update 4. The good news, Rude Clerk still works here, but we basically never see each other ever. The upstairs, where he is, and downstairs, where I am, parts of our building are like two different worlds sometimes. We only ever cross paths if I go up there to deliver a report and he just so happens to be in the hallway, if I'm covering the front desk, or in the once-a-month staff meeting, maybe. Actually, I think he saw me hanging out in my car during my lunch break, because he was parked next to me and headed out to do the same thing. I rolled my windows up and rolled over to take a nap, so we didn't talk. Smile when we do see each other, we don't usually have time to say more than AE or what's good before we pass by. On the occasion that we do have time to chat, it's brief, friendly, and not wildly inappropriate. He seems like he's doing well, so I'm glad for him. So that saga is officially done and over with, at least. It took us until August to find a replacement for Rude Clerk, though. That was kind of a nightmare because I wound up doing his job and mine, plus a bunch of other stuff. But now we have new clerk and she's wonderful. She's about my age also, but not as, horrible. Boss has given me the green light to act as a supervisor to her, kind of like how I thought I was with Rude Clerk in the first place. I trained her and delegate her work and pretty much supervise everything she does outside of her timesheet. She has previous experience doing this stuff, too, so she's been able to jump right in and take a huge load off my shoulders, so that's great. I've really worked hard to keep my communication professional with her. I've worked on that with all my coworkers, actually. No social media, friendly but work-appropriate dialogue, etc. It's gone over pretty well. New clerk was just saying the other day that she thinks of me as more of a boss than boss, and that she likes working with me because I'm chill but know what I'm talking about. So, that's good feedback, I think? It's definitely been easier to maintain my work relationships because I'm not caught up in drama or encased in my personal feelings when trying to deliver feedback, so I can be more assertive and effective. Good stuff. The WTF news. Where do I start without getting long-winded? They created a new supervisory position for the reports folks, which bummed me way out because I wanted that job. You'll remember boss tempted me with a possible raise/title bump in my last update. That new position would have basically been what she was getting at. So, yeah, that didn't happen. I've been on many interviews over the summer, but none have really been what I'm looking for. I've had to remind myself not to jump at the first thing that isn't this place, to wait until I find the right thing. But then, just a few days ago, my new supervisor got fired and nobody, except them wanted the firing, I suppose, knows why. It was really shocking. She'd only been in the position for a month, after working here 3 years or so. So crazy. But I'm feeling a little bit hopeful that I might have a shot at that job now that she's gone, based on some conversations I've had in the aftermath. The trouble is deciding whether I want it after all this. I figure, while I'm here, I may as well take any opportunities I can get until it's time to go. More money is more money? It's been a crazy year, probably the most stressful I've ever had. But I know I wouldn't be where I'm at now, balancing on the precipice of either a promotion or a new job, without the help of your blog and readers, so I'm grateful for that. It's not the thrilling conclusion I thought it'd be when I wrote in last, but something good is coming for me soon, so I'm keeping my chin up. Update 5. It's Addison from the rude name calling clerk saga. I know I sent a lot of updates, but since it's the year anniversary of me leaving that horrible place I was at a week or so ago, I thought maybe it might be nice to share. I always kind of felt dumb about my last submission that was basically, hey guys, still here at this abusive job but I enjoy my work so hopefully it gets better someday, haha happy ending. And the commenters, bless them, were like this. Really isn't a happy ending at all. Oh how right they were. How I left is a long story but it basically goes like this. The position I had been waiting for finally opened up, which would have freed me from that dead-end crap department I was working in for 6 years, and actually would have made me rude clerk's direct supervisor. Ha ha ha. Our receptionist was interested too, so I helped her with her application and resume and said, hey, if you get it instead of me, I'll offer to take your spot at the front desk because I enjoy doing that too. I thought any move would be a good move at that point. New file clerk gal who I thought was cool said she didn't want the job. So I applied, had an interview with the important people, smashed it, thought I had it in the bag. Excitedly came back and told file clerk all about it. She asked me a bunch of questions but didn't seem super excited for me. Thought nothing of it. Next day, file clerk goes in for an interview for the same job, used everything I told receptionist and also her to blow it out of the park. I also happened across work IMs, left up in plain sight. I took screenshots, between receptionist and file clerk calling me horrible names and sharing info specifically to oust me from getting either job. I blocked and removed not just those two from social media but also everyone at the entire company that I had added and posted something mean about file clerk on Instagram. Dumb but I was so crushed. Receptionist made a dummy account to look at my stuff and screenshotted it, showed horrible boss, who got together with those two and told the big bosses that I had tagged file clerk in this post and was bullying and intimidating her in a show of poor sportsmanship. What's funny is shortly after posting this mean post, I went to horrible boss and gave her a brief account of the situation and asked her, do I have cause to feel upset that this is happening? I'm being used and betrayed and it's not even the job, I just feel hurt personally. I thought we were friends and horrible boss basically said to just get over it. So I did and deleted the post. That was all in the span of an hour. So yeah. Anyway, so they let me go the following Monday. They kept pressing me to give them the evidence that I said I had of being bullied myself, or to prove that they would have go way out of their way to see what I had posted / that it wasn't tagged and I refused. Why take a parting shot? I just wanted out of there, and it was the best day of my life. I cried for like an hour. And then my beautiful amazing best friend said, dude, you're free. Celebrate, and we got super tanked and partied all weekend. It was amazing. Then a few weeks later I flew out east to visit my crush that I've been friends with for 10 years. We made it happen, and I moved out east a month later. I had been wanting to leave the West Coast basically since I got there, never liked it, missed home so much. I found a place and a job, call center, nothing fancy, but I could write novels to you about how incredible HR has been treating me and how beautifully they're handling the COVID-19 crisis. They transitioned us fully to WFH and God, it's like night and day. I've already been given growth opportunities and they just treat me so well. It's a shock to my system, right away, and now I'm renting my own place for the first time in my life, live with an amazing partner. Tragically we're quarantined, apart at the moment but both healthy, got a super fluffy orange kitty, have great neighbors, and it's beautiful here. Also, like a week after I left that crap job I met my real dad for the first time. Thanks to 23andMe, never knew him, and he has this beautiful amazing family and welcomed me as his kid and is amazing, and it's just wow. Life is so good and it's just so interesting, isn't it, that all this seemed to come to me once I finally got free of that toxic cesspit I was working at. Update 6. It's been almost 2 years since I left that toxic workplace, and I can't believe how much my life has changed. I wanted to share another update because sometimes I still can't believe I spent so many years of my life in that situation, and maybe someone else needs to hear that there really is light at the end of the tunnel. First, the career stuff. I've been promoted twice in my call center job. After 6 months of consistently exceeding metrics, they moved me to a team lead position. I was terrified at first. My experience supervising rude clerk had left me with serious doubts about my leadership abilities. But my new manager, who is an absolute gem, sat me down and said, Addison, the reason we want you in this role is because you know what bad management looks like, and you're determined not to repeat it. That conversation changed everything for me. I've built a team that actually communicates respectfully, and when there are issues, we address them directly, instead of letting them fester. No passive-aggressive sighs, no your mom responses, no profanity-laced tirades. Just adults talking to other adults about work. Revolutionary, I know. 3 months ago, they promoted me again to department supervisor with a salary that's nearly double what I was making at Teapot Corp. I have my own office with a door that closes, and HR actually backs me up when I need support. The first time I had to write someone up for inappropriate workplace behavior, I was shaking, but our HR director walked me through it step by step, and the situation was resolved professionally. I almost cried afterward because it was so normal. On the personal front, my partner and I moved in together officially last summer. We found a cute little house to rent with a fenced yard for my orange fluffball, who has since been joined by a sassy calico kitten we rescued from the shelter. The relationship is everything I didn't know I was missing, supportive, kind, and drama-free. We actually talk about our feelings instead of making crude jokes or giving each other the silent treatment. Who knew? The relationship with my biological dad has been one of the most healing experiences of my life. He's become this amazing father figure I never had, and his family has welcomed me with open arms. Last Christmas, his wife, my stepmom, gave me a photo album she'd made with spaces for pictures of me as a baby and child, which I provided, next to current photos of us together. I sobbed for an hour. I've also started therapy, which has helped me process just how abnormal my work situation was. My therapist pointed out that what I experienced was workplace bullying and harassment, and that the company's failure to address it was a form of institutional betrayal. Putting those labels on it has helped me understand why I felt so crazy and helpless for so long. Sometimes I wonder what happened to everyone back at Teapot Corp. Did rude clerk ever grow up? Did new clerk get sucked into the toxic culture? Did horrible boss ever face consequences for her complete failure to manage? I was tempted to check LinkedIn, but my therapist suggested that maintaining that distance is healthier for me. She's right, of course. The only person I've stayed in touch with is the receptionist from the floor above mine, not the one who betrayed me, but another kind soul who always made me feel seen when I was at my lowest. She told me that after I left, there was a massive restructuring, and several people, including horrible boss, were let go. Apparently, my departure triggered some kind of internal investigation. I won't pretend I didn't feel a little vindicated hearing that. I still have moments where I catch myself bracing for criticism or feeling anxious when my current boss calls me into her office. The trauma from those years didn't disappear overnight. But those moments are getting fewer and farther between. If you're reading this and stuck in a toxic workplace, please know that there is a whole world of healthy work environments out there. You deserve to be treated with basic human dignity. You deserve to be valued for your contributions. And most importantly, you deserve to leave work each day with your self-worth intact.